Hello everyone, welcome to today's Vision 6 Power Session. My name's Andy and I'll be taking you through today's session. I'm the product trainer here at Vision 6. Today we're running through improve your return on investment, or ROI, by making your data work harder. As marketers, we love our data. It means we can do some great things with the content that we create. So let's go and jump in and see some of the things that we can do with data when it comes to email marketing. First off, if you're new to our Vision 6 Power Sessions, these are short, sharp sessions, 20 minutes max, designed to let you learn something new and then get straight back on with your day. Now, you cannot ask questions as well during the live session, not the recording, obviously. But if you do have a question at any time, just click onto that Q&A panel or the chat panel if you can't find that one in the Zoom window, and just pop your question in there, just type it in at any time. And at the end of the session, we'll run through any of the questions that have come through throughout the session. Okay, so putting our data to work. As I said, marketers love data. It means we can really segment and personalize the different types of content we create. And at the end of the day, if the content resonates with our audience, in that it sort of fits with what their interests are and what they're interested in, it's more likely to then improve your click-through rates and the engagement rates of all the content that you send out and the content that you create, whether it's website and any other materials that you might have, video content and so on. So using data or putting your data to work, you can use it to personalize your content, which is what we're going to be looking at today. You can also use it to segment your content out as well. So rather than send one email out to everyone and sort of hope that some of it sticks with the different customers that you're sending to, why not create a nice, powerful email that automatically changes and morphs itself depending on what your customers are interested in? That way, it's more likely to get a better result. And you may not get as many unsubscribes as well, because again, the email is relative to what the person is wanting to receive from you. It's not just a batch and blast that you're sending out to everyone, hoping that some people are interested. Those that aren't may unsubscribe, and you've sort of lost them forever from your list. So we'll personalize, we'll segment, and through those things, it will improve our engagement and click-through rates on the email itself. So today, what we're going to do in Vision 6, we'll jump in shortly to have a look and set some of these up, is we're going to personalize our subject line. So we have a couple of fields that we're going to use for that. We're also going to personalize the introduction of our message. Then the actual email we're building is a Flash Friday Frenzy offer, a bit of a tongue twister there, for some discount donuts on a Friday afternoon for our fictitious donut shop, XYZ Donuts. But we're actually going to be conditionally changing the offer inside the email based on the user's dietary. So we don't just want to, again, send this out to everyone who's interested in donuts and just sort of hope that they'll buy something. We know if our subscribers are gluten-free or not, or if they're vegan or not, and so on and so forth. So why don't we change the offer to match people's different dietary needs and requirements? That way it's more likely to resonate. We'll get more sales and click-throughs from it. We'll then also conditionally change the store map that we display. So again, we know where our contacts are based, what state they're in. So why don't we use that to our advantage and change the store map that they see in the email that goes out? And finally, we'll send our email to a specific segment of our customers. And that's using a special field we've got called the interest field. So this is what our list looks like. Obviously, everyone's list is different, but for the purposes of today, I just wanted to show you what our list looks like so you can see which fields we're actually going to be pulling in and using for this personalization and work that we're doing this morning to have a look at that. So we've got a first name field here. That's obviously we're going to use that for personalization purposes. We have a state field in our data as well. That's what we're going to use to change the store map. We have the dietary information shown there. So some customers have something there, others don't. That's okay. We can work with that in our email design. So this is for changing the offer. We'll be using the dietary field to change what's offered to them. And as I mentioned, this is our Flash Friday Frenzy sale email for donut people who are interested in donuts. So we're going to be using this interests column here, or the interests field, to only send this to our customers who are interested in donuts, because if we send it to people who are interested in pancakes or not donuts, they again may unsubscribe from our list and we've lost them as a customer. Again, this is just fictitious data that we have here to show you how it could work, but you can sort of imagine how you could scale this up with your data that you have at your organization. For example, if you send out an email to everyone about some new fitness classes that you've got on, but they have absolutely no interest in fitness or anything like that, then again, perfect example of why they may unsubscribe from you. So it's all about making sure the data, or getting the data to work harder for you to get it to fit what your subscribers are interested in. Make sure you send the right things to the right people. So let's now quickly go and build this email and prepare our send using segmentation. So I've just got Vision 6 open here. I'm in the messages section here where all of our emails are. And we've got an email that's sort of been started here in our messages builder. So I'll just open that up here in the drag and drop email builder. And as we go through the email, you can see fairly standard. We've got our logo, web links, graphic at the top there to introduce the email. We have a introduction here, it's a bit of a heading. Then we've got our message body itself, and it talks about that we're going to give our customers who are interested in donuts a lovely offer to let them get some discount donuts at 50% off from 2 p.m. on Friday afternoon. So obviously this is just to clear out stock for the weekend so that it's better than throwing it away. Might as well give it out at a discounted price. So that's what this particular email is for. And just at the bottom here, you can see we have another section where we will be showing their local stores. And that's that segmentation I showed you before, and we're going to go through and set that up. So let's start with the first thing on our list, which was to personalize the subject of our email. And then we'll jump through the other 4 things as well to show you how that all works. So normally when you save an email for the first time, that's when a little box comes up and it lets you put in the message name and the subject. But this is one we've already built previously. So when I press save, I won't get the option to set a subject. So we've got this little tool here called Message Details, a fairly new addition to put it on this screen here. And if we click that, it lets us set a few details about the email, such as the name of the email, what Vision 6 folder it's in, and then your other information in here. So here's the subject line. That's what we want to change today. So let's start personalizing this. Again, it'll increase engagement if it's all very personalized to the user. So right here, what we're going to do is pop the recipient's first name. So I've just popped the flashing cursor there between the donuts and the question mark. I can then come into this little plus button down the end here and insert a wildcard. This is also known as a mail merge field. You may have heard that term before, but in Vision 6, we call it a wildcard. And now I'm just choosing which field from our many fields that we have on our list here that I wanted to insert. So let's use the first name field and insert that. Looking good. So if my name is Andy, which it is, and I get this email, it'll say, fancy some discount donuts, Andy. Looking good. And why don't we also pop the user's dietary in here, in that little gap between discount and donuts. That way, if the user is gluten-free, it'll say, fancy some discount gluten-free donuts, Andy. And if they don't have any dietary at all, it'll just keep that blank there and it will still read nicely and correctly. So let's go and insert a wildcard into that place. And this time we'll use the dietary field and insert that there. Excellent, subject's looking good. Fancy some discount vegan donuts, Andy, for example, is what that would read there. And if both these fields are blank for a particular user, it would simply say, fancy some discount donuts, ? So all looking good. Let's go and save that. So it's a nice and easy way, quick way to pop some personalizations into the subject line. Let's now then pop in an introduction here. We'll pop the first name in here as well. So we'll just put the flashing cursor there. Again, wildcard, and this time it's the first name. Now we do have this fallback field. This was also on the subject box that we had up previously. I didn't talk about it though. I'll talk about it here. This allows you to fall back to an alternate word or phrase if any of the data is blank for a user. So we've got the person's first name. Why don't we just make the fallback the words for you and insert that there. What that's going to do is if there is a first name, it'll say afternoon pick me up, Andy. And if there is no first name or it's blank, afternoon pick me up for you, ? So still looking good and it reads nicely by having that fallback in there as well. And that automatically does that for us. Excellent, so far so good. Let's now, you'll see here, we've got our main body of the email with the text on the left and a nice image on the right there. But again, we know if our customers are vegan or gluten-free, we know their dietary, that's one of the fields that we have. And again, this is just fictitious data, but it's, if you had a sign-up form, you could make that field compulsory where they have to set that information, or even if you're using a point of sale system at the store and you're collecting email addresses there. Again, it's all about the data that you're collecting into the system that will then allow you to do some of this targeting and personalization within the email. So let's swap this content out here for our gluten-free users. We'll show something else instead so they know that we specifically have something for gluten-free users, and they, of course, are probably more inclined to then wander down and pick up some discount donuts on Friday afternoon. So over here on the right-hand side, you'll see we have this conditions panel. Now, just a quick note, this isn't available on all plans, so just check your Vision 6 plan on our pricing page just to see if you've got it. Most of the plans have this though. You can always upgrade plans if you find it is something that might be of use to you. So we'll click on Add Conditions here, and you'll notice this is assigned to the entire block. So I could put a condition on this block, I could put a condition on the logo and change that for some reason, but I'm just clicked onto this large paragraph block here. So we'll go Add Conditions. And now we can set what the condition is. So I would like to say that if the user's dietary is gluten-free, click OK. Now I've got two conditions. I've got default, which is if a user doesn't match any of our criteria down here. And now I've also got dietary includes gluten-free as one of my first conditions. So now what I can do is, now that I've clicked onto this gluten-free condition over here, I can now start to change it. So let's change the image to this gluten-free picture here. Why don't we also, in the text here, pop in the word gluten-free right here. I could even make it bold if I wanted to, just to highlight that so that people know. And why don't we also maybe put the image on the left-hand side as well, so we can change that up as well if I wanted to. So now if I flick between the two conditions, if the person doesn't have a dietary on file, they'll get that version of the email. If they have something, in my case, I've only coded it up for gluten-free, they'll see that version of the email. I can do things like turn the image off for one of them, but still have it on for the other. I can change the alignment, the size. I could make the background color of this component completely different between the two. So the conditions are very flexible. You can even make one of them blank so that people with who have gluten-free, they'll see this, but the default people, you could make this whole section pretty much disappear so they don't see anything at all. So it's a great way to change the way an email looks based on what you know about your contacts and subscribers, and have bits hide and show and bits change and so on. So I could go here and add another condition for dietary is paleo or vegan or something else. You can add fields to this as well. So I could then go and say they have to be gluten-free in Queensland and their email address has to contain .gov.au. Why you would do that, I have absolutely no idea, but just to show you that you can stack these conditions up and make them really, I guess, complex and really refined so that the data does sort of change based on your particular needs with your users there. But I've just got the two there. So you can have up to 6 different conditions running on one of your components here. Now you might remember that the other one we've got here is we can conditionally change the store map that we display to our users depending on where they are. So it will drag in a new image component, because our store map is an image, and just pop it down there underneath the little header there that talks about the stores. Now what I'll do is I'll double click and let's set the default condition to be the map of Australia. I'm just going to actually change the background to white and maybe reduce the padding a bit in this component as well, just so it gives it a nice bit of space and a bit of breathing room around the footer here, so it still looks nice. Cool, so I haven't done anything fancy. I've just literally popped in an image component and changed it to the map of Australia. But now we can begin adding our conditions for our different users. So let's add the first one. If the recipient's state is set to Queensland, okay, let's now double click and swap that for the Brisbane store map. We can add another one. This is if the user's state is Victoria. You'll see they get different colors as well. So when you hover, you can see that I'm on the yellow one, the green one, and so on. So let's change this to Melbourne. And the third one is when the state is New South Wales. And that's the red one. And we can then go and change that to Sydney's store map. So again, as I flick through my different conditions down the right-hand side here, you can test it, make sure it's all working okay. Excellent, looking good. We'll save that. And the great thing about the preview function here in Vision 6, which is this little button up there with the little magnifying glass, is that when you do the previews, you can actually see this all working because it previews it against your contact list. I'm just going to zoom out ever so slightly there so you can see it. And as I flick through my 9 contacts up here, I've only got 9, but you may have more, and flick through them, you'll see that Penelope, I know Penelope is not gluten-free, but I know she's in New South Wales because we've got the Sydney store map. If I flick through here to Nigel, I know he is gluten-free and he must be in Melbourne because we've got the Melbourne store map showing there. So again, as you flick through, it's a great way to test that all of your various conditions are all working okay. And you'll see also here, oops, wrong button. You'll see also at the top here, we have our subject line where we put in 2 personalizations. We've got the gluten-free there, so the dietary is being inserted there, and the first name is being inserted there as well. So everything is working as expected, which is fantastic. But yeah, it's a good little way to test that before you do your send. Speaking of sending, the last thing I've got on my list here is how do we send an email to a particular segment of customers? I don't want to send this to everyone because you might remember that this is a Friday Frenzy deal for just people interested in donuts. It's just, that's what we're doing for our send. It's just relating to those people who are interested in donuts. So I don't really want to send this to my whole mailing list because I might get more unsubscribes for those people who are just interested in pancakes or waffles or something like that. So how do we do that? Well, when we go in the send screen here and press select contacts, normally if you're doing an email send, you're probably used to clicking this top one here, which sends it to your entire list. But in this case, we've got an advanced selection option. Let's click on that one. And this is where we can use that same little field system that you saw before, where you can say, you know, dietary includes this or whatever. But in our case, we're just sending it to users who are interested in donuts. Of course, I could choose more if I wanted to, but in our case, it's just donuts. So as long as the users have donuts somewhere in their interests field, this will get sent to them. Now, if I quickly show you again, this is the list I'm working with. I've just screenshotted this earlier. And you'll see that Bobby here has donuts in his list, Ranjit, and Danny Donut here as well. So this should technically, on the next screen, go to 3 contacts. Yep, excellent. It's found the 3 recipients that match that specific criteria. And I can then go and press done and send it to that group of people. The other good thing is if you're using this search feature quite often, you can actually save these searches as well using the save button. So this is a fairly simple one. Only took 5 seconds to build this. Interests includes donuts, fairly easy. But if you go and add fields such as state is Queensland, email address contains .gov.au, whatever sort of complex searching and things you can build up in here, you can actually save it. That way you don't have to run it every single time. You just pick it from the drop down and it's nice and easy to jump straight into a pre-saved search. But that's good, 3 people, that's all 3 customers there. And because this particular email talks about the donuts being on sale Friday afternoon from 2 p.m, I might decide to schedule it for this Friday, maybe around lunchtime or so. And I can just push that button there and it will be scheduled in, ready to go at that time. I won't have to worry about it. Out the email will go to just my 3 people who are interested in donuts. But hopefully in your case, you've got many more than just my 3. Excellent. So what are some of the other things you can do with conditional content and the segmenting options? Well, in Vision 6, the conditioning content function is quite powerful because you can even do things like change links and things where buttons go to. So you could have a button or a link that goes to different places depending on what someone is interested in or what state they're in. You could perhaps at your organization maybe run 2 different brands. You might have a luxury brand and a budget brand, and you run it from within the same Vision 6 system. What you could then do is change the colors and the logo in your email potentially, depending on what brand your customer is assigned to. If they're in the budget brand, then you could have the logo switch out to something else. If they're in a different brand, you could have different messaging, different logos, and so on. And the beauty about that is you're only building one email every time. You've just got all the conditions doing all the hard work for you to make it look and sound different based on the messaging and that type of thing. You can also change the contact details based on location. So if you know the user is located in Sydney, you could show the Sydney head office details versus Brisbane, show the Brisbane head office details, and so on. You could also link to a different Vision 6 form. So you might have 2 forms in Vision 6, people who are interested in attending a live in-person event, people who are interested in attending a webinar. You can have the registration forms automatically go to a different, you can have the email linked to a different version of your registration form based on that. And finally, another one that you might like to think about using is based on location. If the person's in Brisbane and that's where your event's being held, you could put in the address of the event or the function venue. But if they're not based in Brisbane, you could have a link to the webinar instead where they can watch a live stream of the event instead of attending in person. So it's all about having the email switch out and automatically change based on what the users are interested in and what they're doing and what data you have available.